up, everyone? Welcome to Unmasked, where things are discovered, uncovered, brought to the light, and made known. I'm Lamar Barrett, coming to you live from PG County, Maryland. If you're interested in finding out about the untold stories of being a college coach, this is the show for you. Being a former assistant men's college basketball coach for 16 years, there are so many untold stories behind the scenes in the life of a college basketball coach. Now let's unmask them. Today's guest is a longtime friend, longtime assistant coach, and a Florence, South Carolina native, Patrick Sellers. And it's interesting about the Florence, South Carolina, because the first time I actually met Pat Sellers, he told me he was from Florence, South Carolina. I had a teammate, and I'm trying to steal who got the best family in Florence, South Carolina, either the Sellers or the Nowlin family. So Ron Nowlin was a teammate of mine for 2 years when I was at Elizabeth City, and, you know, Pat goes way back with the family there. But Pat is played at Central Connecticut in the late 80s, early 90s, has actually his first college job after playing pro and coaching at the high school level was back at his alma mater, Central Connecticut State University. And then from there, he went to UMass after a few years there. And then after 1 year, he actually went to University of Connecticut from 2004 to 2010. So he spent 6 seasons there. From there, after a year absence, I think went overseas and played and coached professionally for a year. He came back and went to Hofstra University, which actually I coached there for 3 years. So Pat and I got a lot of similarities. He was at Central, I was at Central. He was at Hofstra, I was at Hofstra. And then from Hofstra, he goes on to Creighton in the Big East for a couple of years, and to DePaul, still in the Big East for a couple of years. FDU, went to the NCAA tournament, going back to FDU to his old Northeast Conference days. And then, now he's at Fairfield University. So Pat is like I said, a longtime friend, been knowing him a long time. And also, he's the guy that got me into the business. I was a high school coach, and I knew I wanted to get into college coaching. And Pat was leaving to go to UMass and asked me, was I interested? I told him I was interested in being a college coach, which he knew. And from there, that's how I got my start at Central Connecticut. So what I want to say is welcome to the Pat show. Welcome to the show, Pat, and look forward to hearing from you today.
Amar, thanks for having me, man. I'm excited to be here. It's so funny you're talking about Ron Nowlin. Ron was on the team, the high school team with my brother's junior and senior year. And then Jeff, his brother, I was on the team with Jeff. So the Nowlin boys are really, really good. They had some good players in our family. And then obviously the Sellers boys, we had a couple good players too. So we're still good friends to this day, that group.
Yeah, I mean, like I got to know the family, with Ron, and they were at a lot of games. So, great stock. One thing I know about Florence, South Carolina, I know 2 families. So if you 2 guys are representing Florence, South Carolina, I know there's great people down in Florence. But Pat, to get to where we are, hey, let's get unmasked, and we'll get started with the show. So the first thing I want to say to you is, there's no handbook to being a college coach, and that's what people, I think, they understand. Most people get training. I think the only people that don't get training on jobs is probably us and a car salesman. And sometimes people kind of link those 2 together. Like, you're just told to go out and get the job done. Go ahead and get the job done, and and so you kind of say, okay, what do I do when I get here? So tell me about your first day, the first week, first month, after things are done with human resources, like, especially when no one gives you direction on how to do the job.
Yeah, I was fortunate because, I played at Central Connecticut, so I was very familiar with all the people at Central Connecticut. So that was an easy adjustment. Coach D, the head coach, recruited my brother when he was an assistant at UConn. And so during the time he was recruiting my brother, he would call me all the time. And his best friend was the assistant coach at Central Connecticut. So Steve Pikel was like Coach D's top assistant, and Pikes was the point guard at UConn with my brother. So it was such a family connection like we all knew each other right from the jump. So, and actually I was coaching high school. I came back from playing in Europe, was coaching high school, and Pike said, Pat, you deserve to be here. You know, you can make this next step. You should be a college coach. And, you know, and I was coaching AAU at the time. So I knew I had a lot of connections and a lot of friends in college, and they all told me the same thing. So I had opportunities before Central Connecticut, and I turned them down because I don't know if you remember the restricted earnings position. It was like 12 grand a year, and I just got back from Europe. I was like, there's no way I can afford 12 grand. So I turned a couple spots down, and then Central had a spot opening up, and Pikes basically said, Pat, you know, come in and talk to Coach D. You know, I think you're gonna have a really good shot at it. And so I got the position, and the thing about AAU, I was involved with. We had so many good players on our team, the New York Panthers. And so we had so many college coaches always calling, asking about different players or whatever. And, you know, so I got to know so many guys. So I kind of had a little inside scoop on how they recruited and what to do and what was important, and just seeing our guys on our New York Panthers team get recruited. So I get to Central, and just like you said, that first day, you know, you get in or whatever, and you got to take the recruiting test. And I remember taking the test, and I came back to the office like, Coach, I might have failed, because it's an open, people don't realize it's an open book test. It's time test, and it's hard. And if you haven't been in the office, like nowadays it's easy. I can pass the test very easy just being around the office every day, because all you hear different questions or different rules. But when you just come up straight from high school, I was nervous that I failed the test. And, you know, she came back the next day and said, you passed, you're fine or whatever, so you can go out recruiting. And, you know, once that happened, basically Coach D, you know, at this point, Tom Konchowski, who's just retiring this year, Tom had his a list of his top 200 seniors. And so I had that. So Coach D gave me the list, gave me a copy of the list. And again, I had never even seen this. So it just put on my desk, all right, look at the players and, you know, form a list of who you're going to recruit and just basically go to work. So Pikes was great in that he kind of said, Pat, here are some guys I think we should get involved with. I want you to really hone in on these guys on top of Konchowski's list. So Pikes gave me a little bit of direction as far as who to recruit, but it was basically, and this is old school, so I would sit down with the note cards and I would write a letter. I would write, my goal was to write 30 handwritten letters every day. And Coach D didn't want the stickers with the addresses. He wanted you to handwrite the addresses. So we had to handwrite the addresses. I hand wrote the letters, and I would send 30 out every day. So I'm just sitting there, you know, during the day I'm doing the letters, and then later on in the evening, I would make phone calls. And back when I started, you only allow one call per week. So you had to document all of that. So they taught me how to do that stuff. So I would document the calls, and I write the handwritten letters, and that was basically how I got started. So and you think about it now, it's so old school. It was no text messages, nothing like that. So you just write letters, and then you hope the kid will reply. And then when you talk to them, you get them on the phone once a week. Sunday was my big day. Sunday was a day where I would say, all right, I'm gonna try and call 15 guys, and I would try and get on the phone early and start calling 15 guys. And then some calls were, you know, 20 minutes, some calls were 30 minutes, some calls were 5 minutes. And if I got my 15 guys in, I felt good about it. And, you know, that being old school, you really got a feel for players because you talk to them so much. Nowadays, you text guys back and forth because they won't pick up their phone, so you don't really get a good feel as you did back in the days. But that's basically how they kind of threw me into the wolves, and that's what I got started. And then my first trip on the road, I think it was up to Springfield. I went to Notre Dame Prep. In Prep, I went up there to see those guys work out, and Worcester Academy. Mo Casero, who actually ended up working for at Hofstra, was the head coach at Worcester Academy. So I went to Notre Dame one trip. I went to Worcester one trip, and then just like basically, you just, you know, same with you, Lamar. You got a good personality. You talk to everybody. You just go up and you start talking to the coaches, and all of a sudden everything just starts flowing. and you get a chance to spend a couple minutes with the players afterwards or whatever, and that's how I got started for me.
Yeah, and then you dropped some gems too, like, you know, shout out Coach Howard Dickman, who gave me my first job. You know, you threw out Tom Kachowski, who just retired. Shout out to OG Gary Charles. You know what I'm saying? So you know, it's surrounded like with some great people. Like, you know, and Tom Kachowski was a guy who recommended me to Howard Dickman as well. So like, you know, it's funny, like all the circles intertwined, and you know, and that's what this business is about, is relationships, and having a good name in this business, and it carries you a long way.
I will say one thing before you go further. You said Gary Charles. I would not be where I'm at without Gary Charles, because Gary, and this is back in my AAU days. The AAU days, I was coaching high school as an assistant. Gary wanted one of our players to play on his team, so Caleb Vincent. So we got Caleb on the team with Gary, and Gary said, Pat, well, if you want to come to the games, whatever, you want to sit on the bench, you want to be a part of it, you're more than welcome. So I think our first tournament was at IS8 in Queens. And back then, college coaches could go to IS8. So I go to IS8 with Gary and Caleb, and like that's where it started. And so I got so tight with Gary. He said, well, hey, we're going to Vegas. You're more than welcome to come, whatever, be a part of it. And that's where it all started for me. We're going out to Vegas. And back then, I don't know if you remember this, the AAU, the big time was in Vegas at Durango High School. We play that tournament, and then we leave. We drive out to California, and we play Izzy Washington's tournament out in Cali. So we would play 2 tournaments in Cali on top of Vegas, right after Vegas. And, you know, the college coaches would fly to Vegas. They would watch us. And then back then, the college coaches could talk. They could talk to you after the game. So it would be a long line of coaches wanting to talk, and they'd be wanting to talk to Gary. And then I'm there. So I got so many guys, hey, can you tell so-and-so we said hello, tell them we love them, we're recruiting or whatever. So I got to meet so many coaches. And then the same thing, we go to Cali. So a lot of coaches would fly to Cali and meet us in Cali. But there were a number of coaches that they figured we were driving, they would drive. So if we stopped at McDonald's to get lunch, they'd stop at McDonald's to get lunch. And those were the programs that ended up getting our players, because they were so connected. So I would watch all this stuff as I was like, you know, heading toward that college spot. And I would say, you know what, that's a great idea. I'm gonna start doing that. I'm not gonna fly to Cali from Vegas. I'm gonna drive. So when I first started, I did the same drive as the players. So I think the players and the AAU coaches they had a lot of respect for the guys who kind of grinded it out with them.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. Speaking of that travel and all this stuff, like, what was your best and worst recruiting story?
My best story ever, and it was Shabazz Napier. So I'm at UConn. We signed a kid that I recruited out. Like, I kind of put my stamp on. I said, Coach Darius. I forgot Darius's last name. Darius, a kid from Chicago, really good kid, from Marshall High School. And I said, Coach, Darius is good, man. He can play. He got Player of the Year in Chicago, public school league. He was a good player, blah, blah, blah. He comes to UConn. He's so intimidated by Coach Calhoun. And that's one of the things Coach D taught me this back in the days. He's like, one thing you can do, just be 100% honest. Don't tell these guys what they want to hear. Just be honest and tell them, hey, it's not going to be easy all the time. It's going to be hard. So with Darius, I told him, I said, look, Coach Calhoun's going to push you. He's going to get on you. It's going to be tough. You're going to have to be mentally tough. He's going to make you mentally tough. It's going to be physically tough in practice. But you got the game and the ability to be a really good player. I was like, so if you decide to come to UConn, I'm just telling you right now. So you're going to come to my office some days and say, Coach is always on me, blah, 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 blah. I'm going to put my arm around you. Some days I'm going to kick you in the butt and tell you to man up and play. So Darius got there and was so intimidated that he couldn't, he was just nervous. He could never calm down. He had a couple good practices against Kimber. He played well against Kimber in practice every day. But all in all, he was just nervous. He could never settle down. The season started. He get in the game. We have a couple good moments, and you feel like he's turning the corner, and then boom, he just go back to square one. So he wasn't consistent. So it was just tough. So we were looking for another guard. So Shabazz. So I'm talking to Adam Finkelstein, and Adam says to me, Pat, if you get a chance, take a look at Shabazz's transcript. He has enough core classes and SAT and everything to graduate now. And I was like, really? Because we thought he was a junior. He's like, yeah, he can graduate right now. So I go through all of his stuff, and I'm like, man, he can graduate. So now I go to Coach. I said, Coach. And Coach loved him because Coach and I watched him in Orlando. Coach loved him. Same thing, thinking he's a junior. I said, Coach, he can leave right now. I said, we should offer him right now and kind of keep it low key so somebody will know. So we offered him, and called his mom and everybody else around. I said, we're gonna offer him or whatever. We want him now. So we go up to Lawrence Academy where he went to school and sat down with Shabazz. Shabazz wanted to be a part of it. So he was reluctant at first because he said, Coach, I want to go to LeBron James camp. And I said, Baz, this is UConn. I was like, you got a chance to be a special player here. I'll get you in LeBron James camp as a counselor, not as a player. So, I did some convincing. So finally he wants to come. So he's all ready to go. Now the coaches at Coach Wisnicki at Lawrence Academy all set. He's fine to go. And the headmaster came in at the last minute and says, we're not going to allow him to graduate. And we were like, what? He said he was going to do 2 years here. And we're the only way he's gonna get his diploma from Lawrence Academy, he's gonna have to be here for 2 years. And we were like, look at his transcript. He's got all of his grades. His SAT score was great. Everything is good. Come on. He's ready to go to college. He's mature enough. We want him to be a good player on this team. And they wouldn't let him go.
Wow.
Now we're scrambling because we were like really into him. He's ready. He committed in everything. So he went to Charlestown High School in Matt, right outside of Boston. And so I'm calling. And he left to go to Lawrence from Charlestown. And obviously Charlestown people weren't happy. So I call up the guidance counselor at Charlestown. And I think they were on spring break when I called. So nobody's answering the phone. So I'm calling every day, every hour, different hour, trying to get somebody to answer the phone. And I didn't realize they're on spring break. Nobody answers. Finally, a janitor answers the phone. And I'm like, please, can you just take 2 seconds to write a note? Please have the guidance counselor call me back ASAP. It's very important, blah, blah, blah. The next week, she calls me. I explained the situation to her. And she's like, well, Coach, he left here on bad terms because we didn't want him to leave. We were a real good team and this and that. I said, I know he's apologetic. I'm trying everything. I said, he's going to graduate. He's did all his work. She says, let me talk to the principal and I'll get back to you. She calls me back. You know what? Tell that so-and-so he can graduate from Charlestown High School. He just don't come to campus. So we were 6 weeks away from graduating. So for the last 6 weeks of school, so we go to compliance at UConn first. We told her the whole scenario. She checks with the NCAA. We did all of that. We went through all the hoops, and they were fine with it because he's completed all of his work. So his last 6 weeks of his senior year, he didn't have to go to school. He didn't even graduate. He didn't have to go walk down the aisle. He just got a diploma, and that's how we got him at UConn. And then he ended up, and I told him, and this was what the hard part. I sat down with he and his mom. I said, look, you're probably not going to start one game as a freshman. So I'm being 100% honest. This is going back to Coach D. But I know Coach Calhoun. In the second half of the games, you're going to have the ball in your hand. He's going to move Kimbo over to the 2 to let him score, and Jeremy Lamb. So I'm just telling you, that's what's going to happen. And that's exactly what happened his freshman year. And in the Final Four, he's got control of the ball in big-time games, Kentucky and all these guys. And Kimbo setting Kimbo up and setting Jeremy Lamb up. Won a national championship his freshman year. Another championship his senior year, and a first-round draft pick. So that was one of the best stories ever. It was funny that we got him like that. And then, one of my worst stories, I don't know, it's probably like I'll give you this one here, Brandon Jennings and Ed Davis. Same deal at UConn. So Andre LaFleur is recruiting Brandon, and I'm recruiting Ed. And we're like, Marcus Williams was a point guard at UConn. Marcus Williams' dad coached AAU, and he coached Brandon. So it looked like all things were pointing to Brandon coming to us. So Dime Magazine did a story on Brandon, and Brandon took a picture in Marcus's UConn jersey. That's how much we thought. We were like, we're going to get this guy. So now we're like, well, let's get Brandon, and if we can get Ed. Now, Coach Calhoun didn't love Ed. I was high on Ed because I was high on his upside. Coach liked him, but he didn't love him. So I'm like, Coach, I'm telling him we can get him. I think we can get him. So the dad obviously was favoring North Carolina. Terry Davis played in the NBA. So I kind of went to the mom. I'm trying to play on the mom and say, well, maybe, and Ed really liked me. So Brandon, Ed, myself, and Andre get on the phone, the once a week call. We talk, hey, we're going to win the national championship. You guys will both be first round picks and blah, blah, blah. It's going to be fun. UConn, this and that. And Ed came up unofficially to Connecticut with his mom. And they loved the campus. They loved Coach. Everything was so good. So we're like feeling pretty good, like we're going to get Ed and Brandon. The spring period in April, this is when the college, Division I schools can have tournaments on their campus. Brandon goes to Arizona, plays in a tournament with his team. And Josh Paxson's the assistant coach. And Josh told us, he said, after the tournament, they came up and just said, hey, Brandon, why don't you come up to the office, man, sit down with Coach for a little bit. And Josh said, Pat, we knew he was going to UConn. We just brought him up just to see what happens. Hey, we're offering you a scholarship, blah, 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 blah. And he took the scholarship on the spot, like totally, we're blindsided. So, it comes out, Brandon's committed to Arizona, and we're like, what? We were scrambling. So, because we just knew we had him. So Coach is like, well, who's the next best point guard? And we called Dave Teller. And we got Dave on speakerphone. And Dave was like, Coach, I was just out in Arizona when Brandon played. He said, Kemba Walker played great. And we were like, wow. So we were all over Kemba. And so we called Kemba right away. And Book Richardson. Book brings him up 2 days later unofficially. So we bring him up. And I think at this time, Synergy just started getting popular. And Tom Moore was friends with the guy who started Synergy. So he gave it to us for free. So we had it for free. So every day I would go in my office. I'm watching all these NBA clips and all this stuff. And so I'll bring Kemba and Book into my office, and we're watching all the Synergy stuff. And they're going nuts. Man, this is great. So yeah, this is how they're doing in college. You can break down players. You can do all this stuff. So I said, who you want to see? Kemba's asking for different guys. I'm putting them in. Book's asking different guys. I'm putting them in. And we were watching this stuff. And so literally, Kemba was 2 days away from committing to Cincinnati. And so, like that, I'm telling you about the bad story, losing Brand, that's the bad part. And then Ed ended up committing to Carolina. But the good part was we ended up getting Kemba out of that crazy thing. So it ended up being pretty good too.
And Kemba ended up being not only winning the national championship, but then ended up being a better pro, which it is actually great, for UConn.
Right.
What did you have to give up? Because this is like, a lot of people don't understand this about coaching, but what did you have to give up to achieve your current level of success?
Yeah, man. So for me, even when I as a high school player, college player, I've always been a basketball junkie. Like when I was a player, I was a gym rat. I was always in the gym. I was good when I was in the 6th, 7th, 8th grade. I was on these different travel teams. So I was always going away on a weekend to play in some tournament. So I was pretty good. So I was always all over the place. And my brother, on the other hand, was always a mama's boy. He was always around my mom. He would be the guy who would come to the game and watch me. So as I go older and get into coaching, you know, and you know this as well as I do. Coaching, man, it's at this level in college. It's a hard life on your family. It takes a toll on your family. So I, you know, part of what I did, I never got married. I never got married. I just had a son 3 months ago.
Congratulations, by the way. We're going to talk about it a little bit later.
Thanks. I appreciate it. So, you know, I just kind of threw myself into basketball, and I got so wrapped up into it. Like, I've been coaching for 20 years. So 20 years later, you're like, oh man, I'm not married. I don't have a son. I've been kind of going all around, doing whatever. And, you know, obviously you make that sacrifice. Like, I love it. And so I'm a junkie about it. So it's easy for me. I've seen it take its toll on certain guys, like who have families, who have kids, and they can't get around, especially as an assistant. As a head coach, you can work the schedule where you can spend time with your family. You can work the schedule where you can do your vacation. And as an assistant, you're sort of at the mercy of the head coach. So whatever you know you can get, you got to try and get. So it takes its toll. You give up a lot of that family life, spending time with them. You miss a lot of that. You know, sometimes vacation part, you give up on like the vacations. Like, you know, I got friends who, like, we were talking the other day, a bunch of us who played at Central Connecticut, we're on a group call, we're talking. And one of the guys said, yeah, man, I went to Egypt. He and his girlfriend went to Egypt, you know, a couple of years ago, and how much fun they had or whatever. I'm like, man, I would love to take a trip like that. I haven't, you know, when I go to Europe, I'm usually going with a team. Like, we go to France for 10 days with DePaul. You know, we went to England at UConn for 10 days. So you go on trips like that, but never where I'm just like not a part of basketball. So a lot of it is like you give up having a normal life, and you give up a lot of family time. That's the hard part.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. And I always said, I kind of reevaluated my situation a year ago. Like, you know, I started looking at the numbers. I'm like, yo, we actually work 12, 15-hour days. And that's just basketball, because you're always on the phone. Like, it's something you're doing. And then, like, I was like, yo, you don't really we probably work 355 days out the year. And right. Even when you go on vacation, you're really not even on vacation, because you got to take calls. You setting up these things to come back to campus for kids to come on campus. Right, so, like, you really don't have a lot of downtime. Like, you don't have holidays. Like, you got 3 days at Christmas, and like, you got to fit all that time in at Christmas. You don't get to Thanksgiving. You know, the olden days when you could go out after July 4th, so you really didn't have that July 4th holiday. So that's what people don't understand about this business, like how much time and energy you put into it. We love it because it's our passion, something we've been doing our life, but you do have to sacrifice some things in order to be, you know, for a level of success in this business.
Right, exactly. And you know, and the flip side of that, though, like you said, like, you put all this hard work in, and then some days you're like you said, you're in the office. You might be doing a scout report. It could be midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning. You're trying to finish up a scout report for the next day, and then, you know, you win that game on the road, or you win that conference championship, or, you know, whatever. Then you're like, man, that's why you do it. That's why you put all that effort and energy into it. So, you know, being successful and winning, it does make you feel good about putting all the work and effort into it.
You know what? I don't know if you read my mind, but that's a great segment, because my next question is, you know, because we all get chewed out time to time. You like, it could be your best work and you had the worst result, or your worst work with the best result. So what was your best and worst scouting report?
Best and worst scouting report. Man, I'm trying to think, scouting wise. Like, I've worked for, like, Jay Young at Fairfield. Jay's a big play call guy. He wants play calls. So he wants, you know, if we're playing Hofstra, he wants to know all their the name of their plays they're running, so we'll know what they're doing. And so, like, you know, again, you know how tough that is, but a lot of people don't know. You got to watch film and you got the headphones on trying to see if you can hear play calls in the background, or you're calling other coaches around who played that team and say, hey, what did they call this play in the second half with 2 minutes and 30 seconds to go? So you're going through, and so it's real tedious to try and get play calls. Greg McDermott at Creighton was the same way. He wanted play calls. So we spent a ton of time in play calls. So, probably one of my worst scouting reports probably might have been at one at Creighton or one at Fairfield, where I just didn't have enough. I didn't have a lot of play calls, especially early in the season when they don't have a lot of games and you don't have a lot of calls. So you're calling around, you're listening to film, and like if you're playing a big time school and they're playing in an arena with 15,000 people in it, it's hard to hear play calls. So you're stuck right there, and then you have to go and try and call other coaches and see if they got play calls. And then so you're at their mercy. Some schools, they don't really look at play calls. So probably one of the worst scouting reports maybe was probably at Creighton, just because or Fairfield this year, just because early season we didn't have a lot of play calls. And then one of my better scouting reports at UConn, again, now we didn't worry about play calls. We had a lot of good players. Coach Calhoun wasn't a big play call guy, but Coach Blaney did all of our scouting reports. So Coach Blaney did a really good job with our scouting reports. We had a manager back then he's got a crazy story, Mark Daignault. Mark was a high school player in Massachusetts. He came to UConn, and his high school coach played for Coach Blaney. So he said, I got a kid for you. He'll do anything you want, manager, whatever you guys need. So Mark comes in as a freshman, and Coach Blaney would give Mark, hey, Mark, can you run or do this? Can you do that? Do that? So he was so good, and he had a real good demeanor about him. Coach Blaney would let him do, type up scout reports and, put some edits together, whatever. And he got really good. So we all trusted Mark. Mark is now the assistant coach on the OKC Thunder. He was one of the G League head coaches, the youngest ever, and now he's an assistant coach. And it all started at Connecticut, him just being like our manager, running around. But Coach Blaney, because I wanted to be, and this is Coach D. Coach D always had us do scouting reports. I don't want you just to be a recruit. I want you to do everything. And so when I got to UConn and I found out Coach Blaney did all the scouts, I asked Coach Blaney, could I do certain things? And he's like, yeah, why don't you watch Louisville and tell us what we're going to do defensively and how we're going to guard certain things and stuff like that. So one of my best scouting reports ever, we played at Louisville on a big Monday. So Louisville was the Monday before Louisville played Pitt. I think Pitt was number 1 in the country. Louisville was 8 or 9 or whatever. They had the whiteout. They beat Pitt. They smacked Pitt at Louisville. And so we go to number 1. UConn goes to number 1. Louisville goes up to 4 or 5, whatever they are. And now we're playing at Louisville. Same deal the next Monday. Whiteout. They're all hyped up. And it was Coach Blaney said, make sure you get all the Louisville stuff together. I'm gonna have Mark do some stuff, but let's get into it. And I said, all right. So I was all over it. And then I went recruiting. I had to go to a game. So I met the team in Louisville. So I get to Louisville that night. We have shoot around the next morning. And so Coach Blaney said, tell me what you think. Tell me what you think. So in practice, when we're going over their stuff, I said, I showed them a couple things that they did that I think we can take away. And I was like, what's going to tip you off, because we weren't getting play calls, what's going to tip you off is, I think it was Terrence Jones. Terrence Jones did something that the play was coming. And anyway, they run the play, the first play of the game, and I screamed it out, and Thabit pointed at me. And they threw a lob, and Thabit just went up and stole the pass, grabbed the ball, looked at the bench, and just screamed. And we go on to smack Louisville. We beat them by double digits at Louisville on that big Monday. And we go in the locker room, everybody's all hyped up. And the fact that what sparked us, I thought, was Hashim, he paid attention to the scout report. He took that first pass away, and he just looked at the bench and screamed. and the whole team just went crazy, and we won that game going away. So that's probably my best scouting report.
I like that. I like that. Biggest challenge you have experienced since you've become a college coach? What's the biggest challenge?
Challenge? Well, I don't know. Like the thing I left when I left UConn, the circumstances I left at UConn with we recruited a kid who was being helped by an agent that I didn't know, we didn't know, and and then Adrian Wojnarowski wrote this. He was working for Yahoo Sports at the time. Wrote an article because he was at a tournament. Adrian was at a tournament with one of our assistants, sitting with our assistant talking, and a guy who used to work at, who was a manager at UConn, who had now become an agent that we didn't know, ended up coming over and saying hello to the coach. And Woj watched the whole interaction, and then he watched the guy go talk to one of the players. So he started doing some digging, and he comes out with this big article on Yahoo Sports, and basically connected this player with an agent, and and it was actually it was a first round of the NCAA tournament that they released it. So the media, they always wait for the big bang, so they released it right at the NCAA tournament. And so all of this stuff came out. And so the coach who recruited him left, took another job. And so this kid landed on my list of players, and he had already committed to us. And it just became a mess. So I was linked with this whole situation of this kid being connected with an agent. I should have known, or either I knew or should have known that he was connected with an agent. NCAA violation, blah, 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 blah. So now the NCAA comes in, they interview everybody, whatever. And then if you were around college basketball for a long time, usually, there's going to have collateral damage. So I became collateral damage. UConn said, we can't renew your contract. You've been accused of this thing here. So you have to basically have to leave. So at the time, obviously I was challenging, man. So I'm a real happy-go-lucky, positive type of guy. And for me, the glass is always full. So when all of this happened, I was embarrassed. I was down about the whole thing. I was mad. I was mad at Connecticut, the whole thing. And I'm sitting at home, and I'm like, well, what am I going to do next? And Ray Allen's agent, a friend of Ray Allen's, said, hey, there's an opportunity if you want to go to China, coach in China for like 6 weeks. And this was like, I think it was in like late June they asked me. And I was like, yeah, I got nothing else going because July I'm not going to be July recruiting. So yeah, I'll go over there for 6 weeks. So I go over for 6 weeks, pack a bag, go over. And the team, they picked me up at the airport. The funny, crazy thing is I'm in the airport. I'm waiting for my bags to come out because I got to catch a commercial flight now to fly within China. So I'm getting my bags. So I got a big UConn bag, and it's 2 ladies from Connecticut. Oh, coach, you're from Connecticut. We're from Connecticut. Blah, blah, blah. You guys are so good. Like they had no idea I was leaving Connecticut. So I was saying, oh yeah, everything's good, whatever. I'm like, man, this is crazy. So even in China, there like people follow me. So I go to, they pick me up from the airport. The translator's there, the GM is there. And they say, hey, sleep in tomorrow, whatever. And then we'll just get started the next day. If you need food, order room service, whatever. And I was like, nah, I'll be up. What time is practice? I'll be up at practice tomorrow. I was like, I'd rather be around. I want to be a part of it. So, all right. So I go to practice the next day. And basically, I'm like, I'm back. I'm in the mix. I'm coaching ball. I'm doing things. I got the translator beside me. He's telling the guys what I'm telling them to do. And they gave me film of the last 2 games they played and say, hey, watch these films and then come in and coach the practice for the next couple of days. So, all right. So I started coaching, and we were like playing. The owner just hired a new GM and a head coach. So we were traveling all over the country, playing all these exhibition games versus other teams. And this was all Chinese versus Chinese, no Americans. And so we go 18-0. Like, they let me coach. And the biggest thing over there was guard and pick and roll. Everybody had a tough time guard and pick and roll. So they let me run a lot of stuff on the defensive end. We put a couple out of bounds plays in, stuff what we did on offense. But we go 18-0. So the owner and the GM fly into a city that we're in, and they offer me a contract for the upcoming season. And so I ended up taking that contract. And then, you know, later on as the season's going on, and this is, like you were saying, the challenging part, the easy part was the coaching part. The challenging part was I was in another country. I was in China. And, you know, they didn't even, I relied on a translator for everything. Like going to a restaurant, I had to have Jeff with me. You know, anything I did. So, and then I had to deal with my lawyer to go over the UConn case. So just my luck, the owner of our team is a big NBA guy. Loaded, he's rich. So we did a 6-week training camp. This is after the summer stuff. Did a 6-week training camp in Las Vegas. So we come to Vegas. So just my luck, my hearing at the NCAA in Indiana is the time I'm in Vegas. So it worked out perfect. So I take a Friday off. I fly to Vegas. I fly to Indy. I do my hearing or whatever, come back. And the Chinese guys have no idea what I'm going through. They're just like, hey, coach, you're back. I'm back. And then coach or whatever. So they told us that we would get the verdict in late December. So December comes, I'm kind of hanging, waiting. Nothing. January, hanging, waiting. Late February, we're on a road trip in a place called Iramuchi. And they got Quincy Dubé on that team. I love Quincy. I got really tight with Quincy. Quincy was a dominant scorer. But I wake up every morning because there's a 12-hour difference from China and New York. So I wake up every morning and I turn my computer on and I can watch ESPN games. So whatever game at 7 p.m. that night, I'm watching at 7 a.m. So anyway, I get up early. I check my email, and my lawyer sent me an email. Hey, call me ASAP. Got some news for you, blah, blah, blah. Call him up. Totally exonerated. You got no sanctions. You didn't get anything. You know, you didn't do anything. So you have a big lawsuit if you want. You can sue the school. You can sue the NCAA, blah, 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 blah. Let me know if you want to go forward with it, this and that, whatever. And I was just like, man, so I was so hyped that all that stuff was over. We go to shoot around. Shoot around is at 9 o'clock in the morning. We go to shoot around that morning. I'm in shoot around dunking. So the Chinese players are, coach, you very excited. I said, I'm happy, fellas. I'm happy to win this game tonight. And ended up, you know, Quincy Dubé had 38 on us that night. Ended up losing. But I was talking about a happy dude. I was happy. So that stretch, leaving Connecticut, going to China, was a lot of fun because it was strictly basketball. There was no recruiting. I'll call so many of my friends, like college, NBA, and got different ideas for practice, got different ideas on guard and pick and roll, on stuff on offense, on defense. So it just helped me become a better coach that year. So it was challenging, but it was also rewarding. And then I came back and got right back into the college coaching thing.
Wow. That's an interesting story within itself. You know what I'm saying? So a lot of people don't get that chance. Like, you know, you got a chance to go over to China, coach, and then you come back and everything is, you exonerated from everything, which, I mean, everyone knew that in college basketball. Everybody knows you. So, I mean, no one would ever thought that you'd have done anything like that. You've always been a stand-up guy, and that's what I think a lot of people appreciate about you.
Right.
Do you ever find, and I'm biased because I've seen you from, you know, UMass, UConn, like I know what you've done. So, and I still like question, like you've been at the highest level, you've been at all levels, and I'm like, okay, why is Pat Sellers should have been a coach by now, head coach, running a program? I truly believe that. That's my opinion. Like I said, I might be a little biased, but do you ever find that there are things about you that people misunderstand And like, what are they?
Yeah, the more I appreciate that, man. I obviously we get into this business because we all want to be like, be a head coach. You want to be at the top of the profession, and obviously, I think what happened with me was I was on a trajectory of going to be a head coach. I think I was headed that direction, and then the Connecticut thing happened. And Coach Calhoun told me, he's like, this right here, you're gonna have to get through this thing here, and you're gonna have to really, really work to get back to where you were, because it's what it is. It's gonna be a stigma kind of on you, and and again with me, I'm like, I tell you, I'm a real positive, happy guy. So, and I love coaching. So I've gotten offered a couple of positions NBA wise, scouting and stuff like that. And, every time I interview, I'm like, well, is there a chance I could be on the court and work with the guys or whatever, be around it, whatever? Because I just don't know if I could sit at a game and take notes and stuff like that all the time. I want to be on the court. And so everybody's like, Pat, you can transition to the front office, but you probably wouldn't be a head coach, or you probably wouldn't be a coach. And so, I turned those, I kind of turned those opportunities down because I wanted to just keep going forward, trying to, be a head coach. You want to run your program, you want to run your offense, your defense. And the thing about me going to coaching at so many places, I've gotten something from every head coach I've worked with. Like, going back, Coach D and Coach Calhoun, 10 years of my career, those two guys are hard-nosed, tough, hard-working. They want tough, athletic guys who work hard. And we were, we had a defensive background. And, obviously we had good players, and our offense would come. And then I go to Steve Lapis at UMass and Greg McDermott, and those are two of the better offensive guys I've been around. So I took a lot from those guys. And then, I've known Greg Horrender since I coached at UConn. He was Coach Blaney's assistant, so I met him through Coach Blaney. And so he offered me the job to come to FDU. And I go to FDU, and in the 2 years I was at FDU, Coach Calhoun built UConn. Coach D built Central Connecticut. Like, those guys built programs. I would say Greg Horrender is just as good or better at building a program. And I had no idea about it. I knew him, we were very cordial, whatever. And the 2 years I spent with him, it was this tells you how to build a program at a mid-major level, how to get the alumni involved, how to get your system, how to get your terminology instituted, how to all the little details that you need in coaching. Greg Horrender was great at it. And I learned so much from him. So I feel like I'm almost overly ready to be a head coach because of so much assistant coach experience from different coaches. Like this past year at Fairfield, Jay is a really, really good defensive coach. So I learned so much from Jay this year, especially guarding pick and rolls, which is where the game is going to. I learned so much from Jay this year on the defensive end. And, I've interviewed for a couple head jobs, and they always ask me, well, what's your identity going to be? And I always go back to, I say, hey, Coach D and Coach Calhoun, 10 years of my career with those guys, and there were big defensive guys. And I was like, people on the outside don't realize, especially at UConn, we would talk about everything that he said in them paper was defense, rebounding, stopping people, holding people down, blocking shots. Everything we talked about was defense. But when we got in the office, how are we going to score? Who's going to shoot? Who's going to score? We got to get points. We got to points. So I said at in interviews all the time, I feel like I'm well-rounded offensively and defensively. So, and when I played, I was a defensive player of the year in my conference. But I was like, I think working for McDermott, Steve Lapis, and Horrender, they really turned me over to offense. I'm gonna be offense, and I would say that to the committee. And I told the committee, I was like, the players are going to hear defense because we're going to defend and we're going to rebound, but I'm going to be thinking offense a lot. So, yeah, you know, I think, you know, you get that little stain on you from the NCAA thing. It's been a long time. Like even now, when I change jobs, I have to go call the NCAA. I have to get a letter saying that I was exonerated. And like the only reason the people ask me at different schools now is because it was a popular case. It was all over ESPN and all that stuff. So people know about it. They don't know the details. I have to talk about it. So I had to get a letter from the NCAA saying I had no sanctions. I got nothing. I didn't do anything wrong. And I had to present that letter to like usually the athletic director or somebody before they hire me. So, you know, I've kind of I learned to live with that. It is what it is. You know, I've been fortunate enough to be on some really good teams around real good coaches, won some championships. So I feel like, you know, if I get an opportunity, you know, I'm going to give it my best, and I think I'll bring a lot to the table for a program.
No question. I truly believe that. I'm going to turn to this a little bit because we're all educators in this business. I like to always say, you know, when a kid comes to campus, when the parents bring their kid to campus and they're ready to drop them off, you know, they're 17, 18, 19 years old. And those parents, I always say, listen, you've done a great job of rearing your kids for that long. I say it on every show, like, I don't believe you raise kids because you raise cattle. You rear kids. So you've done your job. Now let us do our job, and let me do my job. My job is, you did a great job of getting them from a kid to a young man. My job is to get him to being a man. Like, these are the 4 or 5 most important years of his life. So you got to trust us. And, you know, as an educator, as a person that wants to see these kids be successful, you know, that's what it's about. So what would you try to teach your players besides basketball?
Yeah, that's a good question, man. Like, and you're 100% right. Like, I'm one of the guys who, when those guys move into campus, I'm the one, like, usually it's a Saturday or Sunday, I'm one of the coaches who's there when they're moving in. And the same, like you're saying, you're telling them, hey, you know, you did a great job. We got them. We're going to make sure we do the right things. The things I try to tell these guys is personality. Like, personality is not the right word. It's just how you conduct yourself. And like, you can make a big statement by the way you can handle yourself. And that, I mean, the other day we had, you know, the George Floyd thing going on right now. So we had a Zoom call with the team, and we're kind of talking about it or whatever. And, you know, like, we all have experienced some type of racism in our life. And I told them, you know, a story about when I was in college and how we get pulled over, and the officer wanted all of us to get up. I thought he was gonna let us go, and then one of the guys in the back seat started chirping, and so they made us all get out of the car, put our hands on the hood and everything like that. And I told him, I was like, that taught me a lot, because he didn't have to do that. The guy didn't have to do it. And he made us get out of the car, and he did all this stuff. And it was because one of our guys chirped. And I'm sure when it happens in another scenario, other guys start talking or whatever, and they don't get anything. But obviously with us, we're going to get it. So we have to kind of just live with it. But I was like, I got to the point where, like, I've ran through a stop sign or a red light or whatever, and I get pulled over, and I'd have my license out, and I said, officer, I was like, I thought I could make that light. I'm 100% in the wrong. Here's my license. Do you want my registration? I go and get my registration. Here's my registration. Totally in the wrong. And I was like, more than not, they'll come back, give me the license and registration, and they'll say, hey, just be careful next time, or we watch it the next time or whatever. And so now I know my counterparts, a white guy in that situation, they're saying, hey, this guy, I got to talk my way out of this ticket. Well, if we try to talk about the ticket, then it's going to escalate to something else and all this stuff. So I like those, like I think, and that's just a scenario that guys, when they come to college, they're going to face. And I tell them, I was like, that's just one thing. If you have the right attitude whenever and everything you do, I think you'll have it. And not saying you're going to run across some tough situations, but if you have the right attitude, it can help you in life. If you go to an interview and you have a positive attitude, if you're working a job and your attitude is positive and you're happy about being there, they're gonna good things that happen for you. If you're like a basketball player and you come to practice and you got and you're energetic and you're excited to be there, the coach is they feel it. It's human nature. People feel it. So the thing I always tell our guys is, if you have the good attitude and you're excited about things, and Coach D and Coach Calhoun said this all the time, nothing great is ever accomplished without enthusiasm. If you're enthusiastic about stuff, it makes life better. So I try to get that point across to a lot of guys.
That's actually a good nugget there. This is it could be funny, it could be interesting, but like, what's the strangest thing a player has done outside of the basketball court?
The strangest thing. This is another UConn story. Rashad Anderson, Halloween. He has a mask on. He's having fun. He's in college. He has a mask on, like a ghoulish mask, and he's dressed up. And he's in the bushes as kids are walking to like the bars to go hang out. And he's jumping out of the bushes and scaring people. And and so he like really like scared a couple girls with him. They ran and got the cops or whatever. And Rashad, they brought him. They didn't arrest him, but they had to bring him in or whatever. And we had to go get him out and all that stuff. So, and he was just having fun. He wasn't doing anything, or he wasn't robbing anybody or anything. Like, he was just being funny. So that was one of the strangest things outside of hoops that we had to go through.
Wow, Rashad, he can shoot. Hey, he can shoot that thing. though. I know that.
He can shoot it, man. Confident.
Couple of quotes coming down the stretch, and these are like simple kind of questions before I get to the last one. But cause I know you're a big basketball guy, so it's gonna be kind of hard for you to answer this question. I know we huge LeBron James fans. I mean, we talk about it all the time. But this is one. What movie or TV show title best describes your week?
What movie or TV show describes my what?
Your week. Like the week, your week.
A movie or TV show that describes my week. Man, that's a tough one right there. I'm trying to think. I don't watch a ton of I watch Ball and I watch Seinfeld, Martin. I don't know if that describes my week. And it's from Netflix. So yeah, it's probably, I watch a lot of basketball, man. Even now, I'm like every.
So you saying like The Jump describes your week? Is that what describes, like something like that, or?
Now what now?
The Jump or something like that, like what?
Well, yeah. I would describe The Jump. The Jump would describe my week because I'm watching that. Yeah, I'll watch that. That's a good one.
I kind of figured that. Know you a little bit, but like you've been around. We definitely Coach D. If you're around Coach D, for most of y'all who don't know, like Coach D got some sayings. But like, what's your favorite word or phrase? Like, it could be from anywhere.
So I get like Coach D had a lot of stuff. Connecticut, we had a lot of stuff. So, and at UMass, we had a lot of stuff. So I've taken stuff from every place. But one of the things we said at UConn a lot. So like the guys at Creighton loved it. Tom Moore used to always say, like, if Kemba Walker made an in and out crossover move or Marcus Williams did something, he's like, don't show him everything, Kemba. Don't show him everything. And so everybody at Connecticut uses that. Don't show him everything. So Donnie Marshall does Fox Sports. Somebody made a big move on Fox Sports and he's on TV. Don't show him everything. And I'm backing up. So the guys at Creighton loved him. And when I was at UMass, this is a funny story. We used to go to lunch every day. Steve Lapis, he wanted the staff to go to lunch every day. So the staff at UMass, like, we still get together every Final Four because Lap made it such a family gathering. We just hung out all the time. And we go to lunch every day. We go to Bertucci's, or we go to this Italian restaurant, or we go to like sub sandwiches or soup or whatever. And so we're in Bertucci's one day. And Lap's biggest thing was, it could be 5 or 6 of us. We order the food, whatever, and then like I might order wings and a salad. Somebody else might order whatever, but the bill, he would just split the bill 6 ways.
Yeah.
6 ways. So we had a guy, Jermaine Kimbrough. Jermaine Kimbrough's coaching at, is he at Wyoming, I think? He was at Cleveland State for a long time. He was at Nevada. But Jermaine was our assistant to the head coach. So he was making no money. So we go to lunch. So the first couple times we go to lunch, Lap gets the bill. Everybody owes $15.60, you know. And so now Jermaine gets a hold of this. He's like, man, he's killing me. I can't spend $15 on lunch. So he goes and orders some wings and a water. So now he calculated how much his bill was going to be. So now the girl comes back and gives us the bill. And so Lap goes up and then he splits it up, and she says, no, we're taking this one off. He already paid for his. And Lap says, what's this, something new? He used to always say something new. So now I'm taking that everywhere. What's this, something new? So now at Fairfield, we just put a hashtag, something new. Because I said whenever we have a different leader every day for stretching, we might have a freshman. I'm always like, hey, man, give us something new. Give us something new. So the fellas love it. So we have hashtag something new. I got
That's pretty good. What's the best piece of advice you've ever been given?
I mean, a lot of it. Coach D and Coach Blaney are the 2 guys who give you, like, to me in my career, the best advice. You know, Coach D always, like, and to me, Coach D could have been a head coach at a Power 5 school. I think he's that good. And he's a guy who's not a self-promoter. He's not going to be out there, trumping his own horn or whatever. He's going to just, go to work and roll up his sleeves. And I think, if he would go out a little bit more and, like, if he would have pumped himself up, he probably could have got a bigger job and, Power 5 job or whatever. So, but his advice always was, and he always said the hat will be humble, thankful, appreciative. Always be humble, thankful, appreciative. And he always said as a coach, he's like, hey, just be honest. If you don't get player X or whatever, because if he don't want to hear what you're saying, then he's not going to be good anyway. So I always take the advice he gave me of being honest. Like, I took that a long way everywhere I've been. And it has some places hurt. At UConn, we recruited Jordan Hamilton. His brother ended up coming to UConn because Coach Calhoun was so honest. Like, he wanted to hear that he was going to be a one and done. And Coach is telling him, and we're in a home visit, and I said, Coach, he needs to hear one and done. He needs to hear he's going to start. I'm just telling you whatever. So Coach says, hey, we got a guy named Stanley Robinson who's going to be a senior. He's been here 3 years. He is going to start at small forward, but you're going to play you're going to be his backup small forward, and he's going to move into the 4. We're going to play you guys together. So you're going to play a lot of minutes, but you're not going to start. And the kid didn't want to hear that. So he ended up going to Texas, told him he's one and done and this and that. And it's so funny. 2 years later, I think his sophomore year, we played Texas. We beat them. He comes up to me after the game, Coach, I want to transfer to UConn. And I was like, man, I just kind of let it go. But I'm like, you know, if he would have just listened, coach was telling him 100% what was happening, and if he would have just let this relax, he still was going to play 25 minutes as a freshman. So I go back to that honest thing. I think it takes you a long way, and I've seen it work. Coach D and Coach Calhoun, like, you know, they really tell guys, and they lost out on some big guys, but they also got some guys.
True. Where is your happy place? What would you say?
Happy place. So now, you know, like I said, I love basketball, but I'm also a big workout guy because I still in the mornings I'll play pickup with like some of the other coaches or whatever. But my happy place is in the gym working out. Since I can't play all the time, I love to work out and I like to challenge myself eating wise. So I'll go every September and January, I go the whole month, no coffee, red meat, alcohol, or sugar. For me, sugar is the hardest thing because I love cake and cookies and all that stuff. So I'll go like months where I don't have sugar at all. No sugar drinks. The only sugar I have is like fruit. That's natural sugar. So my happy place is the gym, though.
All right. Next to the last question. This is kind of easy before the last one.
Hey, Lamar, you broke up some. Hey, Lamar, it froze. I can hear you.
You can hear me?
Oh, yeah, hey, no. Yep.
All right. So if you had to choose 3 adjectives to describe yourself, which would you choose?
3 adjectives. I would say energetic, happy, and tough.
All right. And then what I'm gonna say is, knowing what you know now, what would you tell your young self to prepare for as an assistant coach?
Knowing what I know now, I would tell my young self to take more time with your family. So even if it means you're gonna miss, like you might have that random unofficial visit on a Saturday in June, if you got a chance to go away with your family or whatever for that weekend, go away with your family, do that. So take more time with your family is what I would tell my younger self.
All right. So once again, Pat, thank you for helping me get into the business. You know, like 16 years, and you know, I probably leaned on you a little bit when I started thinking about doing some NBA scouting because we've always talked about that stuff. We're big NBA guys, but I want to thank you for that. Like that's the first thing when people ask me about getting into business, I always say, if it wasn't for Pat Sellers, I probably wouldn't have gotten in. And then I also want to thank you for being a guest on the show, not knowing what it's about, but thanks for coming on and being unmasked. I really appreciate that. I don't know if you want to add something to it before we kind of sign off.
Hey, Lamar, man, thank you very much, man, for like just having me on and being a great friend. Hey, and you didn't even talk about this, and I know I got to shut up. But DeMario Anderson, we got tight because I was recruiting DeMario Anderson because I'm going down for your 6 a.m. workouts, and that's why I was like, the people watching Unmasked, they don't realize like you guys had the 6 a.m. workouts, and I came back and I said, Coach, this guy Lamar Barrett is big. Like he's got it all together. They got this, your coaching staff, the whole staff. You were the assistant, but like it was just like you had it all organized, man. It was just fun to watch every morning. Those mornings I was down there, so that's how we got connected. And I'm just, I value our friendship. Obviously we love the NBA. We love talking about LeBron. We love all this stuff. So hey, thanks for having me on, man. And keep it going with this Unmasked, man.
All right, appreciate that, man. So Fans, stay tuned for the next guest as we get them to become unmasked. This is Lamar Barrett signing off. Look forward to seeing you again.